In this video we want to talk about organizational culture, and in particular we want to look at the contribution of Charles Handy from his book The Gods of Management. Now, organizational culture involves shared values, beliefs, expectations, and these can affect the business and its daily routines. So businesses are a part of the community. Businesses involve people, and as such the beliefs of the people, the beliefs and expectations that they hold, will influence the future path of the business. Businesses don't have beliefs. Businesses are just businesses. People have beliefs. People have expectations and wants and requirements and preconditions, and so people are complex, and it's these values that come through within the organization. Handy's model looks into how culture has maintained itself and how it is experienced, observed and detected in business. So businesses running throughout the world, for example, will have different cultures because they operate in different cultures. So the processes that they undertake will be conditioned by what's acceptable or not acceptable within that society. Handy proposed his model consisting of four main types of corporate cultures: power, role, task and people. So there are four types of corporate culture in Handy's view, and these relate to power, role, task and people, and we want to look at each of these in turn. The existence of an organization's culture is dependent on its history, ownership, structure, technological advances, the rate of innovation and environmental influences. So culture has mutated over the years according to what's happening within the broader society in terms of the way we see the society, the cultural base of the society, the technological base of the society, ownership, who owns what, and how is the economic resource of the society apportioned, how is it set out, what's the structure. So the way cultures have emerged have been conditioned upon all of these factors, and it's not surprising then to think that the culture within an organization should also be based upon those same factors. Let's talk about the power culture. Well, we've got a spider's web. Handy describes this culture as a web. This culture is mainly noticed in small organizations or family-owned businesses. The culture implies that all business decisions are undertaken through a focal person who is in charge of all business transactions. The person is at the center of the web. So we see the organization as a web with different functional components: marketing, production, distribution, personnel, whatever. But all of these feed in towards the center, and the center is the power center of the organization. So some focal person, some single individual will control all of those different aspects. It's a power culture. The organization can overcome dangers to the business as no consultation is needed, so it can make very quick decisions. The person at the center, the focal person, can make a quick decision. There's no consultation, no long meetings, no reports. Quick decisions can be made. However, there's no consultation, so the employees may feel alienated, may feel sidetracked by the whole process. In other words, the person at the center is, in a sense, all powerful within the organization. The person at the center makes the decisions. The rest follow. Decisions can be made quickly, but on the other hand, there's no consultation. Other opinions are not necessarily sought or taken into consideration. The role culture Well, this is a Greek temple in Handy's view, typically expressed through a Greek temple, perceived as bureaucracy based firmly on procedures and rules. So in this case, the organization is seen as having set procedures and rules, and it operates through these procedures and rules. So for example, production will have a set of rules and procedures, and it's how the organization functions. Logistics will have a set of rules and procedures. All of the departments will have them. The HR department will have them as well. And marketing in general will have sets of procedures and rules and requirements that will have been established over a period of time. They will have been judged in the past as good practices. Perhaps having a monthly report, perhaps having review meetings, or looking into issues of quality, whatever it is. They will have established procedures over a period of time. Same with finance. So all of the different departments will have sets of procedures and rules that they know will work for them within their department. And if they work, why change? On top of all of these sets of rules, of course, there will be management watching to make sure the rules are good, they're efficient, that they're up to date, that they are being adhered to, that any variance from what was expected is reported and dealt with, and also any changes that are coming in from the requirements of the market are fed through, so that rules may be discussed critically and updated if need be. The apex, this management part, is where the main decisions take place. The pillars are the functional units of the organization which have to adhere to the decisions made by the apex. So the columns, production, logistics, HR and so on, as I've got there, these have their own procedures. These have recognized routines, but those are within their department. It's the management, in a sense, who approve those rules, but it will only approve the rules, will only allow them to continue if they meet the requirements of management. If they're efficient, if they lead to good quality, if they are good practice. The culture is mainly adopted in organizations that are steady and not subject to constant change. It is insecure in times of change. When times are changing, you don't want all the rules changing as well, or you don't want organizations adhering to rules perhaps from the past that are no longer appropriate. So in times of rapid change, there must be a critical eye to make sure that the good rules are kept if they're appropriate, and that rules which are now deemed as unnecessary or inappropriate, these could be dropped. Used by government departments, local authorities, public utilities and public sector. So this type of management, generally speaking, is popular within the public sector. Task culture. Well, this is seen as like a net. So we have, just like a net, we have a set of strings connected up. It's popular in modern business society, based on project teams to complete given tasks. There's more of a movement towards working in teams and getting teamwork to complete tasks. So the division of labour occurs within the team. Efficiencies are sought within the team. And teams are composed of different expertise and different experiences, different abilities. And the teams are seen as being productive and self-motivating. It benefits staff. They feel motivated as they make decisions, and they feel valued. They have responsibility. So teams are seen as good things, as ways of motivating workers and getting good quality work. The teams are proud of what they've done. The culture is represented by a net. Decisions are distributed by a net. There's a close relationship between departments and functions. So we have different departments and different functions within the departments, and teams are put together to complete particular functions and meet particular targets and requirements. And it's a net with teams working on different projects right throughout the organization. The culture is driven by recent information and by results. The teams can keep up to date with current thinking. The teams are interested in innovation and change and showing what they can do. And the teams are also interested in the final result, because they want to take pride in what they've achieved. The person culture, this is known as the cluster. It's just represented like this for the moment. Commonly found in non-profit organisations and charities, this culture is not suited for a business. So this is for organisations and charities, not for profit organisations and charities. It's based on the individual. The culture should not be mistaken for the power culture. The person culture allows individuals to be a focal point, entirely depending on circumstances. For example, consultancy practices or barristers. So it's an individual who has power and who works mostly on his or her own, but works perhaps by drawing in expertise or opinions from others. So they are in a sense working together, working under some sort of umbrella, working for an organisation, perhaps a not-for-profit organisation, and they adhere to the ideals of that organisation, but they themselves have a large amount of autonomy. Organisations that adopt this method mostly reject the typical hierarchies of getting the job done and trying to meet the needs of their members. So by and large, it's individuals working away on particular tasks. Sometimes they themselves have developed the tasks or designed the tasks and then go about completing them. But it's to the advantage of the organisation. They're working independently, they're working, or sometimes working in with minor collaboration with others, perhaps seeking advice or sometimes asking for help from others to bring in some expertise they require. But by and large, these are individuals who are trying to promote the organisation by completing tasks, and sometimes they themselves have spotted the tasks or they themselves have designed the tasks that they're now working on. Now, selecting a culture, well, it's important to match the culture with the external demands on the organisation. It's important that the culture within the organisation matches the external demands on the organisation. If that was not the case, then the organisation may be in conflict with the wider society. So the wider society has particular norms and particular ways of living, for example. Then it's important that the organisation incorporate those norms and ways as well. So there should not be conflict between internally the organisation and externally the society. There should be a harmony between both. Otherwise there will be conflict, dispute and issues. And invariably the organisation will lose because the wider society generally speaking, is much stronger. Different operating units require different structures. Well, clearly, a unit dedicated to, let's say, engineering will be different to a unit dedicated to marketing. So there may be different structures required. Some may require structures based on people, others may need structures based on functions or on technologies. So different operating units will require different structures. It would be beneficial if organizations combine a variety of approaches to manage and different cultures in different units. The best organizations would be ones that have elements of different cultures involved, so they're able to draw on the strengths of the different cultures. And when I say culture, I don't necessarily mean the popular understanding of the word culture as the one that prevails in society, the norms by which we live, the way, the dress code, the beliefs of the people, their modus operandi, the way they live, the way they operate on a day-to-day basis. I don't mean that so much. I mean the culture as applied within the organization, which will be partially, or to a large extent perhaps, based on what is external, as I've just said, in the case of point number 1 earlier on. But organizations have their own cultures as well. Their culture will be related to their production method, to the types of customer they serve, the type of product or service they produce. So there will be an internal way of working and behaving and generally operating the business. As far as possible, there should be a meshing of that with the external culture. But as far as possible also, the organization should try to incorporate different values and different ideas from the wider culture, because this will enhance the organization, better position the organization to serve that culture, to serve the wider society. So it means that people from different backgrounds should work for the business, because their inputs will be valuable in tweaking the product or the service, or alerting the organization to what is acceptable or not acceptable. So there should be connections between the organization and the wider external culture. And the best way to get those connections would be to have people engaged from different backgrounds. Now, these are some of the ideas put forward by Charles Handy in his book. It's worth looking over these again and doing some research in the area, because understanding the cultural framework for business is very important. Businesses do not operate in a vacuum. They don't operate independent of the wider cultures. So it's important that we understand these and understand the context within which business functions. But that's all we're going to deal with here. We're going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.